What up, naughty steppers? It's Connor Whitmore here again with another review for you on the Nawtystep channel. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the new EP from Virtual Riot, released on Disciple Records, Preset Junkies. Valentin Brunn, aka Virtual Riot, is back with his second EP for the Disciple label this year. Following January's German Engineering, undoubtedly his grungiest yet as he took his style down more Riddim-inspired avenues, shedding a new light on the genre in the process with his extremely rich and full production, not forgetting the track Show Up alongside Virus Syndicate, which adopted a more panoramic approach and stands as one of the most impactful songs of this year. Since then he has featured on multiple Disciple releases and collaborated with Snails on his remix compilation. Very much still honing in on that earthy, muddied sound, his staple of 2018, and a far cry from the more melodic stuff that he's put out in the past. And whilst his take on Riddim was undeniably refreshing and some of the best stuff I've heard from that style altogether, there was an extent to which I felt this was a stifled version of him, trying to fit his style into a genre with the life and soul being sucked right out of it. As good as songs like Pray for Riddim, Chop Chop and Computer Music are sonically, for me there was little escaping the fact that this wasn't fully reflective of his musical personality. Many have enjoyed his Riddim approach, some don't mind either way, but those calling for his more melodic side to return make for a pretty huge majority. I mean, his ventures and ambitions are nothing to shun him for. He was merely branching out into the thing within the dubstep sphere at current. But to many, it just doesn't feel as much like him, and when news came about that his next EP would be another Riddim one, it seemed to be met with a collective groan. For those people, a couple of experimentations was cool, but to follow that up with another full project in principle painted him more as a trend follower than a trend setter. Nevertheless, I didn't want to make any assumptions regarding my enjoyment of it before actually listening to it. But having listened to it a few times through now, I find myself having many similar feelings to his previous Riddim efforts. Now, before I get into discussing this thing, some of you may know that Mr. Brunn tweeted a few months ago expressing his severe distaste for Knife Party's Blood Sugar remix, which, you know, whatever, he apologised for, but more importantly, I responded to him asking how he would feel if someone talked about his music like that. And his response to me was, yes please, and add a detailed explanation why my song sucks. No joke, that's the most valuable feedback. So Valentin and all viewers watching this video, in owing to that I am going to go into some serious detail on what I think works and doesn't work here. To make this a little easier to follow, I will be discussing these tracks in order. There is another good reason for this, which shall be revealed over time. Strap yourselves in, folks, because your naughty boy over here is about to go in. As I alluded to earlier, this EP is very much a continuation of the German Engineering project on a Riddim basis at least. The sounds on show are once again impeccably assembled for the most part, with a lot of depth and weight to them, but the feeling of restraint is still present in knowing what he's capable of through other musical approaches. On the first track 1-2, we are greeted with some screechy bursts in the introduction, the heaviness gearing into action as Brunn gathers his sounds from the vault, giving the impression of starting from scratch. Quite rudimentary feel to this opening section with the wubs vibrating underneath, a good start to the EP. That RIOT vocal sample is a neat touch too, has to be said. However, that kick introducing the following section at 53 seconds in, come on Valentin, you're better than that mate. This is a point where the track opens up, and instead of there being a huge contrast between the opening and the starting build, there just isn't. We needed that impact, come on man. The snares in that brief section are also very weak. I had to double check I was listening to a Virtual Riot song, because it genuinely didn't sound like something he would do. Having said that, the drums leading into the main build section are great, meaning that the impact of the song's main motif is felt strongly on first listen. Do-do-do-do-do. That motif being the main part of the drop, which I definitely feel could have taken after the build more. The sounds taking a distorted turn here, they're not clear, more muffled and scratchy. The energy is fantastic as per with him, but I really think the drops here would be so much more exhilarating if those main synths were more piercing. The progression, similarly to the first build section, you just walk into without any sense of distinction between individual sections, there's no contrast, meaning it doesn't smack you in the face. It's a nice mix of sounds taking your attention in different directions, but it just needs more flavour. And the second drop is similar in design with those muffled, scratchy sounds once again, albeit with a few alterations in note placement, what you would expect from a second dubstep drop, basically. The Preset Junkies VIP is another song full of force and thwack, but which doesn't have that vintage Virtual Riot flavour and personality. The introduction here is one of the only instances in this EP of that colour shining through, following an opening drum section which I feel could have been fleshed out more with this utterly magical, glorious few seconds. The growls, the melodic synths, the electric notes interspersed within, real beautiful power to it in its brevity, Virtual Riot in full flow. The build has an unerringly creepy, on-the-brink feel to it, which works stylistically, but the drum breaks here just disrupt the flow and overall image resultantly. However, the drop is one to take you away with so much going on, monstrous bellowing noises and intricate mechanical stuff, massive assortment of sounds but still so intricate. And barring a couple of moments, the momentum and dynamic of this drop is completely gripping. Those parts where it does lack fall by the wayside. I'm not too big on how the following build gets us excited for something mighty, giving the impression that the first drop will be built on. But no, we are instead brought right back down to earth with some more lacking in life Riddim. The vocal samples add a sweet touch here, but overall it's just sounds being blurted out. The underlying stutters in the build towards the second drop really work to get the track back in motion once more before we get a complete mood change for that second drop. Again, forceful but not loads going on, certainly more demented in feel though, comes out of nowhere really in that sense. That change in tone taking your attention somewhere else, but fundamentally there's nothing that really moves me here. These sounds seem kinda wasted. This extends into the third track and first in collaboration with vocalist Leah Culver, entitled Come With Me, which is pretty much more of the same. Generally, I enjoy the introduction and build here. The faltering vocal from Culver over the warm bass is simultaneously twisted and inviting. Dreamy as it opens up in the build, reaching pleasant heights, this sense of tipping over the edge, welcomed at this point in the EP. The drops here being the heavier version of Never Let Me Go by Mr. Riot himself, that hard-hitting repetition. Boo boo boo, boo boo boo. Nice drama to the dubstep, but again the sounds here are muffled and scratchy and distorted, like, I wonder why he likes this, I really do. Is it my ears or something? The progression with vocal in tow kinda highlights how dark this song is. Kinda like the moody teenager of mainstream Riddim music. But to be honest, there is a great interaction between every sound here, it's well assembled, and there's a real respect for time and space on show. Then the midsection, at first washy but then more detailed. Those alien-like sounds are a little too at the forefront for me. I personally would have had them fade out of that sequence. The second drop is entirely similar to the first, but it is from here, people, that we get a bit of a shift, a potentially foreboding one at that. The heavy stuff plods along and gradually deconstructs, with a storytelling vibe to it, a pulsating moment of reflection on everything that's come before, and in turn drawing the heaviness to a close. Well, that just might be the case here. because track number 4 and the interlude Glow in the Dark takes us on a picturesque 1-minute journey, a seeming departure from all the preceding material. The percussion here is slightly off, but overall it's blissful and prospective, moving on to pastures new, looking back whilst voyaging into the future. Blending seamlessly into the final track Remedy and second alongside Leah Culver, which quite frankly flips the EP on its head somewhat. The intro here is again immaculate, yet a bit gloomier this time around, like a new beginning, looking over the horizon. It's those humming strings underneath, man, I'm telling you, they get you. And when those throwback-esque fruity notes and vocal come together, it's as if a whole new story is being told in this EP from now on. Music to elevate you above the heavens, going straight into a drop which, whilst not adhering strictly to that vibe, is a very welcome change. This really tidy, inner working sort of drop, not too flashy, understated, picking up nicely in its progression as well. Although I'm not too big on those grisly sounds, I find those distracting considering where we're at conceptually with this track. The final heavy moment of this EP, even grislier with these jabbing bass sounds, is slightly unexpected and ill-fitting, but the flow and rhythm of it is quite lovely. The winding clock sounds before the outro are a juicy little break, with the final 65 seconds possessing a real sense of finality and leading towards the future. All sounds coming together really well here, before a piano vocal ending to round things off. More Disney than pure heartfelt and emotional, but it works as a sweet, melodious closing to the proceedings here, yet another point of reflection for the project overall. Which directs me right back to the point I made earlier on addressing these songs chronologically, important for understanding the trajectory of this EP and where it leaves Virtual Riot going forward. It's almost as if the first 3 tracks are his last Riddim episodes, the interlude being the departure from that, the final track being removed from that approach entirely. Maybe this is something he could clarify for us, but that's definitely how I read the Preset Junkies EP from beginning to end. It's an interesting collection in that it reminds us of the old sonically and the new stylistically, adopting those Riddim structures for the most part to really root us in the present, whilst incorporating so many original Brostep sounds that it simultaneously catapults us right back into the early 2010s, just like German engineering. Unfortunately though, I will return to my overriding feeling, which is that this just seems like Virtual Riot in a straitjacket. I'm all for heavy music with little melody, but again here we have an EP taking that to extremes, music that can be unleashed but never really is. It's like a ravenous animal caged within the confines of a concrete box, fighting hard against its surroundings with absolutely no chance of escape. The force and might of this thing is great, but there's nothing making it special. It doesn't make a statement, and in all honesty, that's what we expect now. That is the standard that he's set. I look back to recent past EPs of his like Chemistry, Throwback, even German Engineering to an extent, all of which have fantastic drop ideas. But this doesn't reach those heights in any way, his Riddim venture becoming a bit stale. It's as if this genre has suppressed him. It's interjecting sound after interjecting sound, nothing new. Energy is undeniable, but in essence, it's pretty flavourless. It does, however, leave me encouraged going forward. I see Glow in the Dark and Remedy as a segue into the future, where hopefully we will see a return of his more colourful side. I'm all for heaviness, just with a bit more life, joviality, freedom. By now, we all know what he's capable of, and in all honesty, he seems wasted making music like this. He's had some fun here, playing about with the latest trendy development in dubstep music, but for me, his true potential lies elsewhere. That isn't to say that there isn't loads on offer here. It's up there with the best music of this kind, loads of detail to the sounds he does make. But the power of its delivery is so overwhelming that it's almost entirely tailored to the headbang culture, and if you're headbanging, you ain't appreciating those fine details, plain and simple. If what you want is headbanging, then this is for you, but if you want to explore the intricacies of Virtual Riot's craft more, then I recommend looking elsewhere in his discography. No idea, of course, what's coming next, but I think considering the wealth of genres he's dipped into at this point, I think it would be great to get an album from him. An extensive display of his talents, stretching across multiple approaches, 10 plus tracks, showing us exactly what he's about, a journey through his sound. Don't want to make him feel like he has to do anything, of course. Art is best without control and pressure, but I just feel like now would be a good time. He's evolved so much over the last couple of years, to the point where he is potentially the best dubstep producer. But as I said, he's had a hand in a multitude of other genres, so to get all of that in one complete package would really cement his place at the top, not only with regards to dubstep, but bass music generally. For now though, I and many others I assume, live in hope that he will inject a bit more feeling and colour back into his music. This was fun while it lasted, but there's so much more to be had than what this latest EP suggests. Now, in terms of my favourite from Preset Junkies, I would have to go with the Preset Junkies VIP. Simply because it has the best dubstep of the lot for me, bright, vigorous, captivating, enthralling. And for some recommendations, if you enjoyed this EP, then I would look at someone like Wooly, who also does the lighter stuff but also loves the Brostep, Riddim sort of combination, and beyond that, maybe Company and Wild Boys. And so that is that for another review on the Nawtystep channel, this time of the new EP from Virtual Riot, released on Disciple Records, Preset Junkies. Thank you very much, and as always, for tuning in. Be sure to leave a comment with your thoughts on Preset Junkies. What did you guys make of it? Do you have a favourite track from the 5? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, then be sure to give it a big old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, hitting the notification bell along the way. For some other dubstep reviews on the channel, check out the link next to my head somewhere. Don't forget to like and follow Nawtystep across social media, all of which is linked, including the recommendations, in the description box down below. And lastly, if it's naughty, then you know guys, so be sure as always to keep it naughty and stay safe. And I shall see all of you legends in the next one. Peace out.